data is the most important part of our application. So for these cards, right now we are using dummy data. But let's go ahead and connect these cards with actual data from coffee stores so that our app starts looking more like this. Now, eventually we will be invoking an API request to get data for these coffee stores. But for now, let's go ahead and use the data from a JSON file. Now, I have already linked the JSON file in the previous lesson. So please go ahead and download that before we proceed so we can code along. All right, now time to use that JSON file to render content on the page. So let's head over to our editor. Now, this is that JSON content. I already have this ready for us. And this file is essentially an array of objects. This is the first object and this is the second object. Now, this object has a few properties. One is an ID, which is unique. Second is the name, image URL, and some more information. Now, we can use the name and the image URL right here, right? We can use the name as a title and image URL on the card itself. And when we click on the specific card, right now we use Dark Horse Coffee as a link name. But if you look at our app, Coffee Connoisseur that we are building, and click on a card, this is actually a string that is unique, which helps us identify this coffee store. So we can use the ID from the JSON file in the URL. So this would be the 0th element and this will be the first element. Route number 0 and route number 1. Now, let's go ahead and create a new folder called data. And let's move this file inside the data folder and call it coffeestores.json and copy this file and pretty much paste it right here and save it. Now that we have this JSON file, we can use this JSON file to render the coffee stores in our homepage. Now in the homepage, we have duplicated these two cards. We don't need it, right? Because we will be using data from the coffee stores JSON file. So let's go ahead and do that. And we can replace each prop with the property from the JSON file. So now let's loop in the coffee stores. But we don't have coffee stores imported here. So let's import that first. So we can say coffee stores from one directory back as we are in the pages directory and data is in the root. So we can say data coffeestores.json. Now that we have coffee stores imported, we can map it. Now, anytime we want to loop in an array of objects in JavaScript, map is a pretty handy function. Map function allows us to iterate within an array of objects or within an array rather. So let's go ahead and do that. Now, the first element in a map function is the current element. So in our case, that would be coffee store itself. And we can just return card from this function. So we can say, hopefully I have closed all the brackets. Nice. All right. Now let's link each property right here. Now this is the name. So from coffeestores.json, it's the name and image URL is the image URL. So let's do that first. We can say coffeestore.name. And before we link up the image, let's go in the browser and make sure all the code that we have written so far is good. So going back to home, sweet. We have the Strangelove coffee name and Dark Horse coffee name. Now let's go ahead and link the image. I'll see you in the next one.